Hey everyone, welcome to the Boom Studio Podcast, a show about business and entrepreneurship. In today's episode, we'll dive into the sales process behind a local gym membership and how, if you take a business model and flip it upside down, you often can get some interesting results that can help you increase and improve your business process.
How's it, Trev?
Hey El, how's it going?
Very good. So you signed up for a new gym contract.
Yeah, I did, and it was quite an interesting experience. I've been a gym member for several years now, but it came time to renew my membership, and there was some interesting things that transpired during that transaction that I thought could be interesting to share.
Okay. Well, yeah, signing up for a gym membership is highly fascinating.
Yeah, and I think we've all actually been there, and we probably have been quite cautious during the process, especially if you've gone down that route a few times. You don't want to be sold something that you don't need, or you don't really essentially want to buy in. But anyway,
Yeah.
we can
Sorry,
address some of these things.
Sort of these things and these sort of gym contracts are synonymous with being locked into, you're kind of locked into something ultimately. So there's a lot there. So yeah, so what made you, so did you renew your membership?
Yeah. So just to give you some context, what ended up happening is I joined a new medical aid, Discovery, and with it came Vitality. So actually, my journey really starts with Vitality, where they called me up and they said, "Listen, would you like 3 months free? No obligation. You just sign up for this thing and see if it works for you." And I have always heard, that Vitality is just like this added fluff on your medical aid that you don't really need. But since there was a trial period and a lengthy trial period, not just 7 days where you can't really get to grips with it, there was a 3-month, no paid, no obligation kind of sign up. And so I went for that. And subsequently, I went to the gym and, asked them about the gym membership benefit that comes with Vitality. And what I noticed was that throughout the entire process, there was a lot of psychological points that were being addressed through this buy period that actually helped me. So sort of like, at the end through it all, I actually felt it was a steal, and it was so valuable that it would almost be silly for me not to sign up. And now this is coming from someone who's quite skeptical in general. I'm the kind of person that when a telemarketer phones me, I just hear who they are, and then immediately I'm like, whatever you're selling, I don't want it. Thank you very much. End the call. So I'm that kind of buyer.
Cool. So what were the points?
Okay, so the first point, I get to the gym and they tell me, right, because you're a Vitality member now, you no longer have to pay 600 Rand for your gym membership. You can pay $200 for it. That's it. So immediately a third of my cost was, I was going to be paying a third of the cost. So that in itself was a huge value proposition.
Yeah.
We know that we don't always, there's hidden costs and people are making money somehow. So even for me, with my quick calculations, the amount that I'm paying for my Vitality, or would be paying for Vitality, plus this gym membership basically equivalates to the gym membership on its own. So I'm getting Vitality plus a gym membership for the same price. Cool. So I'm like, okay, sure.
Okay.
Why not? The second thing that the sales manager pitched to me was, listen, you get a free bag with this, you're renewing your gym membership. Here you go. So that was great. I needed actually a new bag at the time. It just so happened my old gym bag broke. So this was like a nice little added feature. I've seen it before. I've heard it before. Nothing so special. And then, like, as I was sort of about to get up and go away, he was like, wait, there's more. For the next 30 days, you can also get a free smoothie at the local, in-gym bar. And I mean, those smoothies are nice. They're sort of 60, 70 Rand per smoothie, and you get one free for the next 30 days. Cool. So
Sure.
30 times 60, 30 times 70, I'm doing some math. I'm like, that's a pretty significant. If I had to pay that for 30 smoothies over the course of a month or a year, I'm going to be paying a pretty significant sum of money. And then if you do the math, 200 Rand per month for 12 months, and then 30 smoothies times 70 Rand, it's quite a decent portion off my yearly, subscription or membership. And so at this point, I'm already feeling that the value I would be getting, this is the first major psychological thing that I feel is important to touch on. I'm feeling at this point like this is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
For what I am paying, I am getting a lot in return. I'm getting vitality, which comes with it other benefits. I'm getting the ability to gym at the gym that I'm comfortable with. I don't have to change gyms or go to a lesser gym. So I'm gymming for cheaper. And I'm getting a free bag, and I'm also getting a huge amount of free smoothies that just is like a win. So immediately I'm at, this is a no-brainer. And then the last sort of psychology point that I wanted to touch on is the kind of the fear of being in a contract. So if anyone knows me, I'm the kind of person, I don't like to be committed into something, and specifically into something that, I'm not going to use. There's a fear of paying for something that you're not going to use. And so the sales manager, without me asking about it, he just said on my way out, he was like, listen, Travis, just so you know, what's nice about being on this contract is that you're paying 200 Rand a month, right? I said, yes. And he said, in order to quit this membership or to get out of it, I think he actually used the words to get out of it, all you need to do is pay 2 months worth of membership, which is $400. And then he included the words, that's nothing. And I thought to myself, yeah, that's right. That is the $400 to get out of something that I'm really have a fear of being locked in. I'm not using this gym. I'm sitting on the couch watching Netflix, So he addressed everything from...
Sorry, disclaimer. This podcast is not sponsored by Discovery or Netflix. I needed to just throw that in there. Okay, cool. Sorry.
And again, I am the most skeptical buyer you get. And I think a lot of us South Africans are generally, we're very skeptical. We don't want to just go and buy stuff and get locked into things. So he addressed the value proposition, the psychology of like, I'm getting a lot for the amount I'm paying. And then the fear proposition of, I don't want to be locked into this thing. And if I want to get out, if something changes, if I no longer want to go to gym, how can I do that? And then he touched on those things.
No, that's really powerful. Organizations like that have done a lot of work, and I think there's a lot of brilliant people, conceptually working on these models. And at the end of the day, they are their businesses, and they need to be sustainable and profitable. And it's fascinating how they're able to do that. So when I was listening to you, I thought, like, if we zoomed out, essentially that level of adding benefit, adding features, especially feature adding, often and if not always, is born out of competition. So gyms are competing with one another, and I think any company competing suddenly finds themselves either having to look at their pricing structure, look at what they're delivering in terms of value. So you mentioned Discovery. Discovery is one of the brands that sort of revolutionized, as far as I'm aware, the medical aid industry when they came out with the idea that they actually reward their members for living more healthy lifestyles and exercising. And so by doing that and enrolling in those programs, you would actually save on your membership, which was a whole new thought. And what's really cool, so you might be a small gym owner, or you might be whatever, and you can apply this principle for any business. So as good as your sales get, and that whole sort of transaction and onboarding and closing the deals, and I think there's a lot of good psychology. There's also value in stepping out and looking and saying, right, at some point we don't want to be locked into only competing, and then you kind of entering into price war territory. So like Discovery, who kind of revolutionized the idea of medical aid, and then it's the other brands are kind of, the onus is on them to keep up or to innovate or to deliver something of equal value to this brand that suddenly just shot themselves way forward. They're almost not competing anymore. So Edward de Bono was a really good creative thinker in business, and he's got a ton of books. But one of the books he writes is about he coined the phrase or the term surpetition. So surpetition means to rise above your competition, and so his whole thing was. He used the story. He was consulting with Ford Motor Company years back, and they got him in, and how can we innovate and sell more of our vehicles? And his basic thing at the end of the day, like a gym or like anything, the product is by and large what it is. There can be a ton of innovation, and he said to them, your car is a lump of engineering. And the more features you add to it, it's still a lump of engineering. So we can go and we can make the aircon go 3 degrees colder, and the doors can eventually self-open and self-close, and all these kind of things. But how would we really step away from just sort of feature competition, pricing competition? So he did a bit of a creative thinking session with them, and basically what they arrived at was, instead of enhancing the sort of bells and whistles around the actual product, let's go and give owners of a Ford a complete different advantage. So an example of what they arrived at and what he suggested was, as Ford, go and buy up all the unused parking lots in an inner city, and then rebrand them, secure them, make them really amazing, and then you basically only reserve them for owners of Ford. So I'm buying relatively the same car, but suddenly I have to commute to the inner city and work, or whatever it is. But the idea of the sudden he calls it a value monopoly. You're basically just creating this unbelievable value around this brand that I've bought into. So, take the free bag, for example, and this is kind of like blown up into this, oh, well, if you buy a Ford, so where do you work? Well, I work in the inner city, or I shop there, or whatever it is. Well, you are aware that there's these parkings, located at these very convenient areas that are reserved for Ford owners. And suddenly it's like, whoa, okay. So there's this other value. So, when you're talking, and I think a lot of thinking's been done in this space with gyms. But if you had to, as a gym owner, also think now, how would I actually be able to offer a gym membership, but in a completely revolutionary way. And we've seen brands like Uber, come out, and the idea of a taxi. They revolutionized it just by not thinking conventionally. So I think conventional thinking can trap you in a competition war. Take a restaurant, for example. Restaurants, we know that you pay for what you eat. So Edward de Bono kind of says, well, take that thing that is there's a conventional understanding. You pay for what you eat. What if you don't pay for what you eat? Then what would you pay for? You would pay for your time. So that would stop people who come for a cup of coffee and sit and occupy your tables for 10 hours. They would be paying for the time, right? So it's not to say that's necessarily the way to go. But if you exercise your mind as a business owner in thinking, zooming out and thinking, what are the norms in my industry? So take a gym contract. Maybe we can do that quickly. You mentioned the big fear for you was really being locked into something where you were paying for what you weren't using.
That's right.
And I think we know that to a large degree, gyms, that's great for a business, right? If people are actually giving you money, but they're not coming. And I think an industry can ride on that for quite a long time until the industry itself is challenged and they become shakers in a particular industry. And I think that's what we saw with Uber, for example. Suddenly taxi associations and businesses were really challenged by the model. So Travis, if we didn't pay for, if we don't want to be locked into something we're not using, just for fun, what would a gym membership look like if we had to do it differently, entirely differently?
Yeah, it's a good question. And, I'm wondering, so on one end, you've got a market of people who love going to the gym. On the other spectrum, you've got people who are struggling to get up from their, couch, pry themselves away from their TV and, go and exercise. And so I was thinking while you were speaking about a possible business model that could look like so there was a pay-as-you-go facet that I thought about. But if I'm on the spectrum of I'm quite sedentary, that might not appeal to me quite as much. And a pay-as-you-go might mean that I spend less time at the gym. It actually would encourage me to be away from the gym if I'm not inclined to go, per se. Yeah. And, there was also this idea of earning reward points or money back. So imagine if you actually went to the gym and somehow you got some sort of reward, even whether it's a point reward that you could cash out for something. And I think that's to some degree what Discovery and some of the medical aids are working with. But imagine even, at the end of the year, you have some sort of cashback bonus like some of the insurance companies are doing. So with the insurance companies, they give you cash back for not claiming. But imagine, getting cash back for going once a week for 52 weeks, and you can use that money on anything you'd like. So that could be maybe something that's different.
Very cool. For gym apparel that they sell in the gym.
You can use it on, or maybe you could even use it for your next year's membership fees. I don't know. Then,
so I don't want to be locked into something I don't use, right? And then with the gym, like you say, okay, so I'm a bit lazy, so then I just don't use it. So you can't reward me for not coming. So I mean, to open up a bit of thinking here and go, okay, so if we did it differently, let's say when you sign up your contract, there's a bit of a sort of a goal that you say, and I mean, you might not be sure as a newcomer, but you say, well, you plan to come once a week or twice a week. So you want to come twice a week. fantastic. So your gym membership is X amount, and if you reach 50% of that attendance goal, I mean, with technology we could do actual performance goals within the gym and monitor that, but let's not go there. Let's just, for the sake of this discussion, stay with an attendance goal. I show up 50% of what I said I want to, and that means I didn't use 50%. And then at the end of the year, they refund me 50%. So I literally paid for what I use. But in order to get the refund, I have to reach at least 50%. So if I only go once a month, I don't get any refund. So I'm just, and I think we have to look at then what happens if I go 3 times or 4 times, and those kind of things. But just opens up the thinking around, okay, so I'm kind of incentivized to start going. I wasn't going at all, which makes me feel like I'm not just a number. They do really want me to actually go to gym and not go to gym. I'm also not going to be paying for something I don't use if I at least do go a certain amount of the time. So anyway, just I don't think we need to arrive at a particular business model here, but I think the main point is firstly, depending on where your business is at, you're either identifying value adds, like you explained, and going through and really unpacking the psychology and the fears of people, and being more consumer, customer focused, and going like, people don't want to be locked into a contract. How do we make it easier? And I think you'll see a far greater onboarding. And I believe, just like you, who's quite skeptical, you went for it. And I think if they can get you to sign up, then, they can get a lot of people, because there's obviously an element of real value then. And then the other point is, over and above that, and in general, as a business owner or someone doing something, not to feel, sort of, there's these big brands out there and they, can't compete. If you find yourself in a thing where you're competing and having to drop price, then it's time to step back and actually go, how do I reconceptualize this thing? How can I re-offer this thing? You mentioned Netflix earlier. That's exactly what they did. Instead of like hiring a video or a pay-per-view, here's a minimal fee per month, and you just streamed content, completely as you want to see it when you want to see it. That just revolutionizes viewing, and so I think there's two things here for a business owner or someone running a business to kind of think about. But it's really cool and fun, and I recommend for anyone to take a look at some of Edward de Bono's stuff, especially his book on Surpetition, and also how to we didn't do it too much now, but how to take something like a gym membership model and write down all the norms, all the conventional thinking around it, challenge that in a very productive way to actually arrive at totally different concepts, like the one I mentioned with Ford. So he actually went through a creative thinking process and workshop and arrived at, instead of building more and more technology into the vehicle, add this other value. And in doing that, you build a much stronger and wider brand as opposed to just the product itself. And that's something Apple has done really well. You're buying a laptop, but as soon as you do, it's connecting to an entire ecosystem of apps and integrations and all sorts. So it's really that value monopoly that Apple's gone and created is phenomenal.